of FUEN Digital Summer. I'm Kristina Anxhara, Vice President for Internal Relations at Youth of European Nationalities, and I'm a minority member myself. I'm Black from Albania, and I'm speaking to you now from Tirana. I want to start first with some technicalities regarding the webinar. First, we will have a talk with our guest, Lóránt Vincze, for around 30 minutes. And after that, we will have a short round of questions, which we will collect in writing. So please post them in the chat, which you will find in the right bottom corner and you have been using until now. You are more than welcome and encouraged to also share your remarks and comments in the chat. Therefore, in order not to lose any question, when you have a direct question, please press the question mark there and it will become blue. And this way, we don't lose any question that you want to pose to Lóránt. Important, you can add questions at any time. Before we start, let's do an icebreaker. Please write in the chat where you are from and if you represent any minority organizations. This way we can also see who is around us at this very moment. While you do that, I want to add that we will also publish the recording of this webinar so you can access it afterwards. As this webinar is open and not everybody is familiar with FUEN, I would like to shortly introduce us as FUEN. Youth of European Nationalities is the largest network of youth organizations of autochthonous, national and linguistic minorities in Europe. We represent the interest of young people from these minorities. Currently, 41 member organizations from 18 countries are represented in FUEN. Since its founding in 1984 in Knivsmed, North Schleswig in Denmark, FUEN has been advocating for the interest of minorities with a special focus on young people. That means that we as FUEN are run and led by young people, for young people, and we see ourselves as self-determined and self-organized youth organization whose activity is carried out and determined by youth. Quickly about, I'm going very quick since we lost a little bit of time. Quickly about the context of this webinar. We usually organize 3 to 4 large events during the year. Unfortunately, during 2020, we were forced to cancel 2 of these seminars, and as an alternative, we are launching FUEN Digital Summer as a series of activities under the motto Think Beyond Borders. Even when at home, we want to keep our network active and connected, even if we can't travel, and reflect on the current situation as well as the challenges that national, ethnic, and linguistic minorities are facing right now. In these webinars that we are organizing, we will invite guests to bring their expertise and perspective. Besides that, we also are organizing discussion rounds for young people from our network. And last weekend, we also had the training. Very important, FUEN Digital Summer is funded by European Youth Foundation. Today, I want to welcome with us Lóránt Vincze, who is definitely not a stranger to our network. Since 2016, he has been the president of Federal Union of European Nationalities, FUEN, the umbrella organization of adult organizations on national minorities in Europe. FUEN is based in Germany and also shares the office space currently with FUEN. We have cooperated with FUEN for many years now and supported many activities, for example, the Minority Safepack Initiative that we will also discuss today. So hello and welcome, Lóránt Vincze.
Hello, good to find you all, and thanks a lot for the invitation. Just one question, is my video okay? Because my colleague says that I'm upwards down somehow with my head, but I think it's fine.
I think
it's okay?
Okay. Yeah. It's
okay. Good. So thanks a lot again for the invitation. It was my fault that we were late because I tried to log in into this system. It's the first time I use it. I used several ones, but this seems a bit too complicated.
I think
but let's go on. Let's gain some time.
Yeah, let's gain some time. I think we will be fine also time-wise. So Lóránt, last year I will start directly. I want to ask that, I mean, last year you were also elected as a member of the European Parliament on behalf of the Hungarian party in Romania. Can you shortly tell us what is your background and what was the way towards being elected a member of the European Parliament?
Well, it has been a really interesting period. Meanwhile, I'm reading that my video is, for some it's okay, for others it's not okay. It's a matter of how you keep your computer, probably. It has been a very exciting period, and actually, probably today was the top day of this period, and it happens that I'm discussing with you. Since for a member of the European Parliament, the highest honor as a professional activity is to conduct so-called trialogue with the co-legislators, with the Council and with the European Commission. And I did that on behalf of the European Parliament. We were negotiating on the prolongation of the deadline for ongoing citizens' initiatives. Because of the COVID, they will get an extra 6 months to collect the signatures for a longer period. And the Parliament had some proposals, and now the Council and the Commission agreed. So we had full success today in this agreement. So I'm happy with that. And otherwise, yes, it's a very challenging job because you have different tools to promote what is important for you, for your organization, for your community. Because I think also NGOs have very important role in the society, but as an NGO leader, you feel somehow the borders of your possibilities. When you try to promote an agenda, you have good proposals, but you then realize that it's up to the politics to adopt it and to take it further and then to implement it. So from this point of view, it was really interesting to see this other side where you have the chance to influence the legislation. And it is, of course, not something hidden that I got this role because of my activity in the FUEN and in the minority protection field, and because the Minority Safepack Initiative has a good chance to succeed, and it is better to be able to influence it from the inside, from the European Parliament, because it depends a lot on the EU institutions, the Commission, the Parliament and the Council, what will be the legal act that finally the Union adopts in protecting the national minorities. So probably this is my biggest agenda point, but I'm working in the Constitutional Affairs Committee, in the Petitions Committee, in the Home Affairs and Justice Committee, and we can detail a bit what I am doing in each of them.
Yeah, we have. We also have further questions on that. So from this, I would say that your background as president of FUEN obviously had an impact on you being elected as a member of the European Parliament, right? But now, just a sort of question, which is of great interest to our audience. Before that, were you somehow active in the community before you became member of Democratic Alliance of Hungarians in Romania in 2019? I mean, how did your activism as a young person look like before, when you were, I don't know, member of which organization? So.
I was journalist at formation, and I worked as radio journalist for 16 years, and I also worked in the written press as editor-in-chief of the Hungarian national newspaper in Romania. And of course, I have been in touch with our minority organizations from the beginning, and I was representing also NGO interest for the Association of Hungarian Journalists. I've been vice president and the president of the Council of Honor for this organization, so I was a bit familiar with NGO activity before, and I had a moment when I felt that I could do more in politics, in becoming journalist, from journalist becoming an expert on minority rights, and later politician in the field of minorities. And obviously we have very good professionals in Romania, our organization, but we needed some reinforcement in our international and European activity. So I became international secretary of my organization, the RMDS, and this way I started my activity within the European People's Party, which RMDS is affiliated with, and with the FUEN as well. So I started my European career in these two organizations, but also I was working in the parliament as advisor for many years.
So more or less you started with your activism 16 years ago, and it went on to this point.
Yeah, I think it is something very characteristic to minority groups that the different actors like politicians, journalists, NGO activists, they work together, because if you have some basic common agenda, then you will be able to achieve more in your specific field of activity. So I think it is important that we work together to be able to do something for our community.
Media and press are very important to civil society. I want to ask more on how does it work with the mandate and being the president of FUEN. Obviously, you became a decision maker yourself, so you have much more power in bringing the interests of the minorities to the table. But is there sometimes a conflict of interest? You probably have a lot less time for FUEN, and especially because your position there is a voluntary one. How do you manage all this?
Yes, indeed. Basically, being the president of an NGO and a Germany-based NGO, the president does about voluntary work. So basically, it depends on him and the other members of the board how involved they are in the everyday activity. Probably during the first 3 years of my mandate, and also before as vice president, I did much more than in honorary capacity one would do, but it was necessary activity, especially running the signature collection campaign for the Minority Safepack Initiative. But probably what we are doing today is more close to the normal, that we have a good office, we have a good secretary general, we have a good staff, we have offices in Flensburg, in Brussels, and in Berlin. And other colleagues who help us, which make possible that the everyday activity can be carried on by the staff, while the board is following the processes and take the decisions, but they don't have to be there every day. But I try to be, of course, available for my organization, also for those at home. And yes, you can imagine that my agenda is quite full here in the European Parliament, which I would say depends always on the members themselves, how much they want to work. You must not participate in all the meetings. You don't have to accept all the files to work with. So it depends on each one's professional curiosity to do less or more. And I try to be active also in the parliament.
Okay, now regarding the MSPI, that, as you mentioned, was one of the biggest success of FUEN. I am sorry, but I want to say that also we as FUEN take credit for mobilizing many people and connecting signatures. Can you just tell us in a few sentences what Minority Safepack Initiative is about, and what is the current situation with the initiative?
Well, to put it briefly, because this is a topic I can speak hours of, but mainly, of course, this initiative wants to bring into the European Union's attention the need to protect the linguistic diversity of the EU, the linguistic and cultural diversity, which is essential for us as minority groups because we want to preserve our identity. And our identity's main element is the language, is the culture, it is the education in the minority language, and it is for the moment the competence of the member states to do basically whatever they want in this field. There are some international documents, such those of the Council of Europe, but it is not mandatory to comply with those rules. But while at the EU level there is nothing yet in this policy area. So what the Minority Safepack Initiative is to draw the attention of the European Union that it should be done more. There should be a support, there should be funding for the minority groups, because there is a very strong process of assimilation. Many groups lose speakers, so our communities shrink. We are less and less people speaking one language or being part of a culture. And if we lose it, it is not only our own personal loss as a community, but it is also something that Europe is losing from its cultural heritage. So this is briefly what we try with the proposals in the Minority Safepack Initiative. After the successful collection campaign of last year, now we entered in the so-called institutional phase when we presented the initiative to the European Commission. We were supposed to have our public hearing on the 23rd of March, but because of the pandemic, we had to postpone, and most likely it will take place in October. It will be organized in the European Parliament, the Council and the Commission will be present. Finally, the initiators will have the chance to tell to the institutions what they want with this initiative, what are their proposals. And after this hearing, the European Commission will have 3 months to decide on whether they will start to develop legal acts based on our proposals. So in this period, for us, is a preparatory work. We do a lobby work, not only in Brussels to the institutions, but in the capitals, in the different member states, because as the European Union is working, it depends a lot on what the member states want to do, either in the Commission or in the Council level. So you need to get supporters in order to succeed with one or other project. Not only ours is as such. So yeah, there's a lot of work behind, and the whole pandemic changed our plans, as everybody's plans. We wanted to do more. But nevertheless, I hope it's only a postponement of our topic.
Yes. This postponing is it negative or positive? Is there anything positive about this, about postponing this hearing?
I think it's neutral because we did not lose anything. We lose some months, but when you compare it to the fact that we started this process in 2012, so 8 years ago, 2 or 3 months in addition would really not matter, given that hopefully we will have a success in the end of this process.
Okay. Well, when reading the MSPI, it's quite complex, and we see that the whole process of pushing the MSPI is very complicated. The proposal worked out by FUEN are quite in a complicated language, which is very natural, obviously. But also the formalities that we always hear are a complex process. But we, as minorities, that we are very much interested on the topic, and maybe we follow what's happening with the initiative. We know what's happening, but how would you promote, not only explain, but promote the Minority Safepack Initiative to those who don't know anything about national minorities? Why is it important to have this legal framework on the European level? Just 2 sentences, very short.
Yes. Even during the signature collection campaign, we had the social media campaigns, and it is something that we now restart because now we have an endorsers campaign. So public figures from the communities, from the regions, from the member states have a message, a video message, and a PICMES where they explain exactly why this is needed for their region, for their state to go ahead with the initiative. And we were quite surprised during the campaign to listen to people from the majority who heard for the first time about our proposal. They said, wow, we did not know that national minorities don't have a legal act, they don't have laws regarding them at EU level. And the second thing that we discovered that for a majority people, it is not obvious what minorities mean. Because in Western Europe, especially your Tunisian or Turkish neighbor is the minority and the ethnic minority, and they tend to forget about the national minorities. A few people in Germany, I think, know about the Sorbs, about the Danes, about the Sinti and Roma and the Frisians in Germany, and this also shows that we should do more as society to recognize the minority groups, and it should be the role of education and so on. We can enter into the details of it. It is the role and responsibility of the state. Now we want to do something more at EU level concerning that.
So until now, promoting the initiative amongst the majority was very much with these videos that were individual for different states.
They were videos, they were different news, they were very explicit PICMESs, they were some brochures, they were direct contacts. For example, in Denmark, when we succeeded with the collection of campaigns, was because colleagues from the German organization from Denmark went to a fair, a travel fair, I think, where they just spoke with the normal people from the majority, and then they gave their signature. They were convinced that it is a good cause. So you need to mobilize people. You may need to make them their own problem what you propose, and this is the way they will give your signature, because that was our aim initially, to get their signature. Now that we also want to get their support, and this goes mostly towards the local authorities, regional authorities, national parliamentarians, and the government.
Okay, thank you. So, for the moment, is anything that we as young people, or maybe Yen, can do in supporting the MSPI?
Well, I think the Yen did a tremendous work with this initiative, because Yen is one of the funding partners in starting the Minority Safepack Initiative in 2012 in Bozen. Also, the Yen president was there, Matic at that time, to support, and always the Yen was behind. And as the Yen president is part of the FUEN presidium, you have a direct access, let's say, of what we are doing with it, and what were our projects, how we approached our member organizations, and we always suggested that the Yen does the same with you, with your whole network, because I don't think it is an intergenerational problem. It is youth or grown-up people or children. Minority education, minority language concerns them all. So we need to work together and we did it well.
Yes, that's true. But we maybe but maybe we can come up with some things that we can do for the moment as maybe as young people, just now at this stage, because we worked a lot with signatures, and we want to know if we can do something more now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think you can. You should approach the different parties, youth organizations, because you have a good network. You know them, and try to convince them that they go to their politicians, to their parties, and convince them to support the initiative on the different levels. Because when we get an endorsement like a decision of the Schleswig-Holstein Parliament, it was very important. It meant a lot. Or when we had this support in Carinthia, in the region in Austria, that was really important. And we should get this kind of support also now. And you could help us through these youth political organizations.
Okay. Now going to the European Citizens Initiative, it is said to have the potential to influence the European policy making as well as being a participation tool for European citizens. But in reality, it actually seems that the initiative is yet another kind of petition, let's say, rather than genuine participation resulting on any impact on policy. In that regard, how realistic are the expectations in FUEN for achieving the results with the Minority Safepack Initiative?
Well, I would say that also from a legal point of view, the Citizens Initiative are quite a strong instrument in the European Union, though it has not been used in its full capacity. But definitely it is more than a petition, because petitions come to the European Parliament, they are accepted to be discussed on the agenda of the petition committee, which will listen to the opinion of the Commission on the topic, we listen to the petitioner, and then we'll say that we cannot much do. We can, for example, ask the Commission to do more in one policy, or ask the member states to have the petitioners. But now, with the initiative, we address directly the European Union to adopt legal acts in a field, in the minority protection field in our case. And in it, it's then up to the Commission to come up with the legal act. But I feel it will be very difficult to say no when the European Parliament will adopt a decision, a motion supporting this field. So I think that the pressure that mounts with the more than 1 million signature is really an important tool. And I think the biggest achievement we did was creating this solidarity among the minorities and to translate it into the signatures. So this cannot be, just put under the rug. It's something tangible and has to bring results. So I am confident that we will get there.
So we should definitely expect results with MSPI.
Yes, I believe that we arrived in a situation where it cannot be just overthrown without any explanation. I'm expecting to have results. Concrete legal acts, I mean. Yeah, that would be the result.
That's very, very nice to hear, because regarding the Citizens Initiative as an instrument, as you said, it will be what if it's not translated to any, I don't know, to any, let's say, people invest a lot of money, but they don't receive any legal assistance while doing that, right? You invest and you don't receive any legal assistance, and the initiative, if it's not translated in a law, as you said, it will be translated in a law. Maybe those 1 million people will lose trust in the European institution.
Yes, that is what I am saying as a rapporteur in the European Parliament for the European Citizens Initiative. That so far, in other topics, there were 4 successful initiatives, but the European Union did not adopt any legal act. There are no laws after those proposals. Ours is the 5th such successful initiative, and I'm really hoping to change the game with this one, because it's not a specific policy area. It regards several fields, and I'm hoping that the European Union has to show that the time changed, and that it is not only a democratic exercise, but it's a tool that can be used in the benefit of the citizens. You cannot trick the citizens forever, and this is actually the third commission that is dealing with initiatives after Barroso, Juncker, and now von der Leyen Commission, who really proposed, really promised that these initiatives will get the serious attention as the other initiatives coming from the Parliament.
But then if this is the fifth one and with no results yet, do you feel that this as an instrument is very much okay as it is now, or should it be more developed and changed as an instrument? How do you feel about it?
I believe it can be changed, but it is just from January 2020 that the revised Citizens Initiative Regulation entered into force. So we will need at least 2 years before drawing new conclusions and eventually propose a new text. But by the end of this 5 years mandate, one of my roles would be to propose new improvements to the regulation, because I believe that the citizens should get a tool that really is meaningful. And just in parallel, there is another movement that shows into that direction, and that one is a conference on the future of Europe, where again the ambition is to listen to the people, to listen to the citizens, to listen to the NGOs, to the different stakeholders, and influence the future plans of the European Union with concrete legislation. This is at the very beginning, this process, but I really hope to be able to intervene also in that and say that the 50 million people belonging to national minorities in the EU have a say. They want to influence the future of the EU, but they need to get the chance for that.
Okay. As you mentioned in the beginning, in the light of Corona, there was a lot of pressure on the European institutions to extend the deadline, which was extended, for collecting the signatures. This happened last week, and the Council gave the green light for temporary extension of the deadlines, as you already mentioned. And you were also working on that. But was this process easy, or did you face difficulties in gaining this extension?
Well, this process has not ended yet, but today was one of those important moments with the trialogue between the three institutions, because the Commission adopted the regulation proposal. The Council agreed with the proposal of the Commission, but the Parliament had a different proposal. We made amendments to this text, which means that a conciliation was needed between the three institutions, the co-decision process, and with that we succeeded today. So we all agree now on a text, and it has to be adopted by the member states and by the plenary of the European Parliament on the 8th, 9th of July. So then will be final, but already the initiatives that are collecting signatures can use this prolonged half a year period. It was surprisingly, all the three institutions were open to this solution. So they realized that the citizens cannot give their signatures if they want, if they cannot go out from the house. Yes, and the organizers were not able to have these small campaign meetings or to knock on the doors. Not to say that at the beginning of this whole pandemic, nobody cared about anything, just their health situation and the health of their loved ones, which is understandable. But of course, it created a disadvantage for the organizers, which the institutions now recognize, and I am certain it will be a success. It was a good dialogue between the three institutions, that I'm satisfied with the results.
Also, one of the initiatives that this extension would impact is the initiative Cohesion Policy for the Equality of Regions and Sustainability of the Regional Cultures. Can you tell us a little bit more on that initiative very shortly?
Well, it is also an initiative started by minorities, by minority groups from my region, from Transylvania. They have a slightly different approach. They don't speak generally about minority rights, but they say that the minority regions should get extra funding because the minority groups need more support from the EU. And I think it is a proposal that is worth supporting, and I encourage Diane to promote this initiative, because now they have this extra period and they are ready. They get more than 1 million signatures, but only from 3 member states. They need at least 4 other EU member states to pass the threshold to be successful. So I encourage everybody to do it and to promote it in your organizations and in your network, because all these initiatives show that there's something missing in the EU, and more pressure we put on the institutions, the more likely we will have a success.
Thank you. In the European Parliament, there is also a body called Minority Intergroup, which you co-chair for the moment. It has already re-established at the start of the parliamentary term. Which is actually the role of these intergroups? Where does its importance lie, and how important is the work of the intergroup in relation to the future of the Minority Safepack Initiative?
Well, these intergroups are established by the members of the European Parliament from the different political groups. So it is everybody from every group. They are present in a group on a certain topic, and we are speaking about thematics that are not present in the normal parliamentary committees. So minority rights is not included under any committee. More close is to the Home Affairs Committee, but not even there explicitly. So it has been created in 1983, I believe, so very, very long time ago. And it had this role to offer a forum of discussion for members of the parliament from the minority groups and for those from the majority who are sympathetic with our cause. And it is a place to discuss the main project, the Minority Safepack Initiative, to present the problems of the different groups, to have as guests the minority organizations, the NGOs, to have debate on the minority press, for example. We had now a debate on how we can help the minority press that had really big problems during the pandemic to get to the readers, and their revenues fall immensely. So these are the topics we can discuss in the intergroup, but it's mainly, let's say, an informal gathering of members. But it's helpful, I think.
But even though informal, we can say that's one of the main platforms where the MSPI is being discussed for the moment, right?
Yes, because there all the members from the minority groups were able to say how they can help. And the help of the different deputies from the parliament is that they go to their parliamentary group and they promote the initiative, so that the EPP, the Socialists, the Greens, the Liberals, the leftists are as a group supportive, and the role of each member is important from this point of view. For example, after this debate in my group, the European People's Party, I was nominated by the presidency of the group that I don't know, I'm the responsible for this topic in the group. So they entrusted me and they said, okay, it's a good plan. You have our endorsement. You go ahead and get the support of the other groups. So finally, the Minority Safepack Initiative has a green light from the parliament.
Okay. Now, moving a bit away from the European Union, there's another important institution, the Council of Europe, which has been one of the international organizations paving the path for minority rights, and this is very important. Do you see any potential cooperation or mutual projects on this front between the European Union and the Council of Europe? And in your capacity as a member of the European Parliament, where do you see the links between the European Union and Council of Europe?
there is a strong link between the European Parliament and the Council of Europe, and this is the place is the Constitutional Affairs Committee, which role is to have this relationship going on, but it's not a happy relationship, let's say, because the European Parliament is reticent yet to agree with the different policy proposals of the Council of Europe. It lags behind, I would say. And also we need to see the role today of the Council of Europe, which is more or less a silent organization. We see now also in the pandemic, we had a few statements of the Secretary General, but they were not in session and they adopted no document. And also the fact that their documents are not enforceable in the member states creates that they don't have the big influence we would like to have. But they are the promoters of minority rights. You were perfectly right. These are the only legal tools actually in the Europe for now, that we have the Framework Convention on the protection of national minorities, and we have the Language Charter on minority or original languages. And these were, let's say, revolutionary in '93. But since then, many things happened, and these legal tools showed their limits. We need more security, and we need more legal acts securing the rights of minorities. And that is how we come to the EU, because in the Council of Europe, it would be difficult to do more for the moment.
Thank you. Now, moving a bit from your role as a member of the European Parliament, more a bit towards your role as the president of FUEN. FUEN has been our partner organization for many years, and it is also actually how we started, first as a working group of the FUEN, and in the meantime we are self-organized and independent youth organization that wants to work with FUEN on equal footing. The MSPI actually gave the impression that young people are somehow a medium to gather signature, but have not quite been included in the following stages of the MSPI. We would be interested to see what's your view on that, how to involve young people more, following up a little bit on the question of how can we support the MSPI.
Mm-hmm. Well, basically, I think the YEN, through its president, was included in all stages of the Citizens Initiative while we were in the Commission, when we had all these important steps, when we had our lobby activity in Strasbourg, in the Council of Europe, or in the European Parliament. The YEN was offered to be present. Of course, as you also said, you were part of our congresses with good and big delegations. So I think that the opportunity is there to be present and be active. And I can only encourage you to propose maybe some new tools, some new events, some new campaigns that could help. So the fact that now we started this endorsement campaign of the FUEN, I can see it as an endorsement campaign that can be started by YEN and can attract a different public and different endorsers, like famous musicians or football player or just you know better who is influencing young people and convince them that it is a cause worth supporting, and then I think you would help tremendously our cause.
Okay, we duly noted that. But you said that it's not an intergenerational issue, but you don't, I mean, the cooperation between young and old, let's say, isn't there like really an intergenerational issue? Obviously YEN and FUEN, we have similar goals. From our perspective, we want to support you, like, for example, with the signatures, but we are a bit like left aside and tired of being considered like passing by as a school for going to FUEN afterwards and preparing people as activists to FUEN afterwards, because like our ultimate goal is not to prepare FUEN activists, but we want to provide young people with space and possibilities now for today. And we want to discuss subjects that are important to them now, and we want to empower them now and not only in the future. So how could this intergenerational cooperation look like from your perspective?
Well, I have this discussion often with youth organizations from my region, from Transylvania, and usually they put the same question, that they feel that young people are not involved enough into politics or into public administration and so on. And I always say that I'm open to any suggestions. So I'm really the person who likes to get new projects and then to say, okay, let's do that. But it has to come from you, to say, this is something we would like to do. Do you support us when with that? We would like to do it with you. And then I think you have all the doors open to us, and we never refused such cooperation. And I was actually proud to give the floor to the young in different conferences where I was invited, where the young could present its own activities, its own projects, like my minority might say, and then the different projects throughout the year, because you do a great job. It is valid also for our own organizations that not all are very active, and it's one of the most important challenges for FUEN is to attract them, to give them programs that really make them to be present, to be active. But it's not easy. Even in the collection campaign, of signature collection campaign, we had some sleeping members that never have that, and that's life, you know. So we are different organizations, and nobody can be obliged to do anything. But I hope that the FUEN offers the image of an open NGO, which is open to any ideas. And you know, we work together. In Berlin, we have a common office space. So really, you just knock on the door, literally, and I hope we help when you ask for it.
Thank you for that. Now moving on to, actually, we had another session, but due to no time, we really value more the questions from our participants. So we move on to questions from our participants, and Kasha and Deva from the office are helping me with collecting the questions. The questions will appear on the screen. So Pia is asking that the Council of Europe has a unique system of co-management that offers young people the unique opportunity to be co-deciders together with government representatives and mainstream youth policies in the Council of Europe. Work priorities and expected results budget, while on the other hand, we almost faced a scenario without intergroup on youth in the European Parliament 2019-2024. Do you see a similar structure that involves young people in the decision-making processes also in the structure of the European Union anytime in the future?
Well, I think it would be important to have young experts or representatives of youth NGOs that can influence how the money is you know, the budget is made. As you said, it's not there's no structure yet in place. I think this should come maybe as a proposal in the Cult Committee of the European Parliament. But I think there are a lot of projects for young people, like the whole Erasmus architecture is based on youth, and they can access a lot of programs. But of course, how these programs were created there. Maybe the youth organizations had a very small role. So I would be open to it. So I would support it. I'm always saying that such projects can start with a pilot part. So let's try for a few years with a budget how youth organization can contribute to it. But then, of course, you have a lot of questions that could raise. Who are the representative youth organizations? Do we go with the same system of national youth boards, as is the case with the Council of Europe and so on? But we could solve these questions if there is a policy decision.
Okay, but anytime in the near future, will we be having a similar structure with the COE structure that young people are, or there's nothing yet in the horizon?
If somebody is tabling such a proposal and it offers a framework that could work, then yes. But when you look at the European Union's budget, which is on a 7-year multi-annual budget construction, it is you need to start this work in time to be able to influence the next annual financial framework, but it has to be tabled by a member in the parliament. So if you had ideas, if you have proposals, then we can look into it and try to find supporters for it. I think it is a cause that could be fought, so I would be happy to help.
Thank you for that. We have the next question. Zikel is asking, what do you currently see as the biggest challenge for minorities in Europe, and in which direction would you like to see more activism from youth minority activists?
Well, I would like to see more activism from the minority organizations in general, not only the youth, because I see quite a big difference between the minority organizations from Central and Eastern part of Europe and those in the Western part. Here in Western Europe, the minority organizations feel comfortable. They are okay. They have a budget provision for the next year. They know they will get the money, so they only have to think about how to spend it. And this cuts a lot from the enthusiasm, from the activism of the organizations. I imagine that's the same with the youth organizations. I was following, for example, in South Tyrol, there was a period when the youth organization of the SVP was not really active. I don't know what is the case now, but it was a pity that one of the biggest minority groups, the German-speaking community in Italy, had no strong youth organization. I don't know. It is depending always on the agenda of the different group, what they consider their biggest challenge. I can number many from the problems my minority faces, but I know that others don't have the same problems. So what we were able to manage together is to create the common denominator through the Minority Safepack Initiative, and this was a good decision because it created something that belongs to everybody. But I think we should not forget that we are fighting for our identity, for our language, for our culture, for our education, and all this is very close to young people, and it is something you should still focus on. There you have many stimulus in your everyday life, and then you would tend to go into different directions as young youth organization. But sometimes looking to what was at the forefront of the minority youth organizations before is maybe a good starting point when you want to look for new challenges.
Thank you. Now we will have to unfortunately, this was a great talk, but our time is up. I want to thank the the audience for taking time and asking questions, and for taking the time and being here with us. I want to thank Lóránt as well for your interest, for your time, for your insights on the subject. And if you can tell anything, do you have anything that you want to share in the end with us?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's always a pleasure for me to discuss with you in the end, but I'm sorry to do it under these conditions. So it was much nicer when we had discussions in Opole or in other places when in Pécs, when I was together with you in an event. So I cannot wait to have a face-to-face meeting because it's not the same, you know. Maybe what I'm saying mostly the same thing as I would in person, but it's not the same feeling. It would be good to see you, to get your reaction, but it was anyway a pleasure to be with you in this hour. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. That is true, and unfortunately for the moment, these are the conditions. Hopefully it will change very soon. Now, for those from our network, we invite you to take part in the discussion rounds next week, Thursday on the 2nd of July. Today we didn't have enough time to discuss the corona situation very much, but you will have the opportunity to discuss in small groups and share your personal experiences on how you have been impacted by the corona crisis. So Thursday, 2nd of July, and the link to the event is on the webinar event page. In the end, if you have any feedback or questions, you can write in the comments, or you can write in the event on Facebook page, or just write to our YEN office@yeni.org. And and for future activities, you can follow our homepage on Facebook, Instagram, and our webpage, yeni.org. So thank you very much. Thank you, Lóránt, and thank you to all our attendees today.